MotoGP is one of the most exciting motorsports to watch because of the frequent and often spectacular overtakes. But how do they do it? Here are 6 ways to overtake in MotoGP. Number 1. Use the opponent's mistake. This opportunistic approach to passing is quite simple. If an opponent makes a mistake, such as going wide, getting bike wobble, or getting caught behind others in the start, a racer can use this opportunity to either pass in the moment or use this to set up a pass further down the track, which is a fairly common way of passing. You see, even if a rider who goes wide saves it and doesn't get past, he's going to have a bad line coming out of the corner, and will have to fix it in the upcoming set of corners. This type of opportunistic passing is very common in the start of races as well. It's not uncommon for riders to get bundled up in the first couple of corners, where you often see really sketchy passes. The reason you see many sketchy passes in the race starts are, well, first of all, the riders are very close to one another, but secondly, getting caught behind a slower rider for 1 or 2 laps can be detrimental to the rest of the race. Another type of opportunistic overtake is when 2 opponents are jostling for position and the rider behind them overtakes one or both of them. This happens because overtaking riders have to take a line which is less than optimal, which slows them down. Number 2. Wait them out. You often hear commentators talking about the team's different tire selection for the race. The reason this is so interesting is because softer tires do not last as long as harder ones. This means that riders who opt for softer tires have to get away fast in the beginning of the race. Harder tires last longer, but will of course not be as fast as softer ones. One successful strategy you see some teams use is to go with harder tires and then deliberately stay behind the rider on softer tires and push them to go faster. In the last laps of the race, the soft tires will be so worn out that the rider has no other option but to slow down, and the rider on the harder tires can make a simple pass. Another part of this strategy is the psychology of staying behind. If you have never raced a motorcycle before, it might be hard to understand this, but being first and having someone chase you can be very stressful. It is simply easier to chase than to be chased. Number 3. Outbreak. Outbreaking the opponent is one of the most efficient ways of passing, because if done right, the rider's line isn't that affected. Being able to outbreak opponents is often due to a combination of factors, including better setup bike, better skills on the brakes, or tires in better shape. If you have ever raced yourself, you probably know that outbreaking also is fairly intuitive and doesn't require much setup beforehand. It is obvious if an opponent brakes earlier than you. Being able to outbreak opponents is a crucial skill to stay in front, especially if the opponents have faster bikes or marginally faster lap times. Number 4. Observe their weak and strong areas. The differences between MotoGP riders at the very top are minimal, but they will still have weak and strong areas. Throughout the race and also beforehand, racers will observe their opponents to figure out in which sections they are strong and which sections they are weak. This way they can spend an entire lap setting up a pass in a specific place where their opponent is marginally slower. These types of passes can often be very heroic, because the rider in front is not ready for it and because the difference in speed is so marginal. Number 5. Slipstreaming. A motorcycle slipstream is the region of air behind it, which is moving at velocities comparable to its own velocity. Because of the relative motion of the air within the slipstream, the racer within the slipstream can reach higher speeds. These types of passes are almost always made when 2 bikes are very closely matched power-wise. An interesting fact here is that the winglets that were banned by the FIM in 2016 were banned because they created violent turbulence in the slipstream of the bikes. Number 6. Use the bike's strength. All the bikes have different strengths. The Ducatis and Hondas have tons of power and stability but don't turn in as easily, while the Yamahas and Suzukis turn in and exit better but lack sheer top speed. Being able to use the strengths of the bike is of course also linked to the track. You often see the Ducatis win at Qatar, Hondas doing well at Motegi, Yamahas doing well at Assen. The fact that the bikes have these differences I think make the sport exciting to watch, since there is no bike which is stronger in all the areas. Remember to subscribe to my channel. There's always something new to learn.
It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Watch out now. Cause baby I feel real good and I wish I would. Watch out now. It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Watch out now. Everybody watch out. Watch out now. I'm ready for a good time and I came to groove.